Hey lovelies, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about my first official holiday launch purchase of the year. And it's the PAT McGrath MTHRSHP Mega Celestial Divinity palette. Now, I feel like there are two camps about this palette. There's the, yes, I'm so excited I'm gonna get it, and the, what a waste, I'm not gonna get it, don't even bother. But before we get going, I just wanna say, for those of you who haven't stopped by my channel before, thank you so much for stopping by today. My name is Kelly, and I am a professional hair and makeup artist, and here on YouTube, I strive to keep beauty real. Real honest, real relatable, and real fun. So if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on my future uploads. But if you are interested in my thoughts and swatches of this palette and maybe even a look or two, then let's get right into it. All right, now I know that pretty much any makeup lover with a social media account has probably seen what this palette looks like, but I figure I should give you a peek right away just because, you know, here we are to talk about the palette. But I just have to say, like, to give you guys a little bit of background on my sort of like PAT McGrath journey, because I think that that's really where the value or lack of value in this palette is going to lie. And for me, I think that, you know, if you are a true PAT McGrath lover, if you are a palette collector, you're sort of in a sticky spot with this one. Most people know that these shades in here do combine the two Star Wars launches. You do have the 6-pan set here and then the other 6-pan set here, I believe. So the only new ones are this middle set right in the middle. Yeah, the only new ones are the ones in the middle. And so for some people, I can totally see why you're bummed about this holiday launch really being centered around mostly re-release shades. So that's one thing to keep in mind with this. But as far as my journey with PAT McGrath, my first little palette that I purchased earlier this year is this guy. Like, look how far we've come, you guys. So obviously, you know, the PAT McGrath formula has been hyped for a long time, and I thought that this little guy was a great way to get to try the formula at a very low price. I think that this was $25. Well, I guess a very low price compared to some of the PAT McGrath. But this was $25. It is on sale on the PAT McGrath website now, I believe for $14. And honestly, right away, I just felt like there was something a little different about this formula. It's beautiful, and the shades all have like something a little different. And that to me has extreme value. And honestly, as an eyeshadow palette lover, I'm not bummed about the pans being smaller in this, and that's one of the reasons why this comes in at a smaller price tag than the other PAT McGrath launches, because you do have a significantly smaller pan than your traditional size. Now, the only other PAT McGrath palette I have is this one that was actually gifted to me by Yachty Beauty, and this is the Rose Decadence palette. And I have to say, like, this really sort of sold me on the PAT McGrath brand, because I was very blown away by the mattes in here, and I think that that was something for me that was very surprising, because I loved the shimmer shades, but finding out that these mattes were such beautiful blendable quality really kind of like pushed me over that edge. And for me, I am the type of person that I really like options. So honestly, a 4-pan palette or a 6-pan palette just, I feel like it fences me in a little bit. So something like this is almost like a dream to me, because I can sit down, I can look at it and really go anywhere. In my industry, being, you know, a beauty professional, I can pretty much wear anything to work. I can wear anything, anytime. I've had days where I've worn like flaming red eyeshadow, and I've had days where I've worn neon green eyeliner, and, you know, everything in between. So I feel like for me to be able to sit down with many colors in one palette is valuable to me. And in all honesty, I don't think that this shade range is really what I would consider like a travelable, we're going with that one, a travelable color palette. So the fact that it's bigger and maybe not as travel friendly doesn't bother me at all. This is something that I'm gonna keep at home and enjoy having at my vanity. It's not really something that I plan on taking on the road with me. So the size doesn't bother me, but for all the shades inside, it's really not that big in my opinion. Now, as far as price point, I think that for a PAT McGrath palette, this is an excellent deal. Now, if you've stopped by my channel before, you know I love to break down price per ounce. To me, that really shows where the value is and if you're getting a good price for the product amount that you're getting. So what I'm gonna do is do the math and break down price per ounce of this palette. I'll also do this palette because I think this is a good like in between if you're someone that likes a little bit smaller shades, and also one or two other brands that are considered more of a high-end formula. So I'm just gonna pop these right here, and you guys can see the cost breakdown for yourselves to see if you think that it's really worth the value. For me, like I said, the wide range of shades, the smaller pan so that I really have like more flavors to be able to taste, if you will, that really makes it valuable for me. So I don't have the 2 Star Wars palettes. Obviously, like I said, these are the only ones that I have in my collection. So for me, this was a great way to miss out on something that was already launched. It's a way to have it in one palette so I can just grab it and play with them all. And it's a way to get a few new shades. So for me, I was very excited. I really do love the packaging on this holiday palette. I just think it's very beautiful, very luxe. Now, looking at the actual color story inside, I have to be honest, like most people, I'm not surprised, but I'm a little bit bummed that there are so many golds in here. And I think what I am going to do is actually swatch the golds side by side so we can see if there are like big similarities or if they are all vastly different. But also when I do the swatches, I'm going to go ahead and break them down by the 2 Star Wars palettes, if you will, and then the ones in the middle. So then you'll be able to see how this breaks down if you are maybe someone that just wants to go ahead and like dig through the treasure trove of online shopping to find one of the 2 Star Wars palettes if you're like, oh yeah, I really just want like that little collection over there. So I thought that might be helpful. So before we go ahead and get into our eye licks, let's go ahead and do these swatches and I will be right back. I guess I probably shouldn't have worn a long-sleeved shirt to do swatching, but we're gonna get this rolled up. Now, I do have to say, I just double checked because I was getting paranoid there for a second that I was wrong about how many shades in here are new, but I was right. I have to say, I also watched Hey It's Jacqueline's video on this, and as someone who has gotten quite a bit of Pat McGrath, I think she had a really nice look at I guess I would say the other camp of how people feel about this palette. So I found her video very helpful and I really love her channel. So I would say to go check her out. I will link her video down in the description box as well. Now I do want to take a minute to say that this review is really more of a first impression because I have only used this palette once. I actually did use it this morning and I can talk a little bit about that look that I did when we get to the look portion of this video. But so I've really only touched 2-3 shades in here, something like that. So all of these swatches are going to be me swatching them all for the first time. I really just wanted to like have that first experience with you guys, being someone that's a little bit newer to Pat McGrath. So I just wanted to like insert this in here. I realized that I hadn't mentioned that. So obviously, because I'm assuming I'm going to get this video up as soon as possible, for those of you that are still on the fence thinking about whether or not to buy it, I didn't have a lot of time to play with it. So I am coming to you as someone that's newer to the Pat McGrath world and also newer to this palette. But like I said, it's just hot off the presses, so everybody's gonna be newer to this palette. All right, let's keep going. So now that I've shown you the swatches from the entire palette, I just wanted to go ahead and do a, come on, autofocus, there we go. Okay, so I just wanted to get the golds, if you will, side by side so you could see. Honestly, this is where I think it's important to either get to see swatches or understand that like Pat McGrath shades sometimes don't look like they do in the pan, because to me, a couple of these look very different than they do in the pan, and it keeps wanting to look at my face. What can I say? So I would say like these two are similar-ish. I mean, obviously the bottom one is like a little bit more bronzy toned, whereas this one is shifted more towards orange. But I mean, honestly, even like these two, while they seem somewhat close, the shift on them is different. Like you're gonna see a bit more of a like green, almost blue shift from this. And I don't know if the camera will pick this up. I think it's actually getting it right there. Whereas this is just like a really pretty, like champagne-y gold. And then of course here you have, it's like a gold with a little something different. I want to take the gold from this little guy, my little like inexpensive Pat McGrath starter kit here. By the way, this is the iEcstasy Subversive palette. It's not the starter kit. So I'm going to take this one and pop it right next to this one in case you have this guy. Those are fairly close, I would say. Are they the same shade? I don't think so. Gold Standard? Oh, they are the same. Ta-da! Look at that. So Gold Standard is in this one. So I guess I do have one repeat shade. I'm almost like excited about that. Does that mean I'm like in the Pat McGrath like club now that I've like gotten a palette that has doubles? Anyway, I just wanted to show these to you guys because, you know, obviously there is quite a bit of gold in this palette. So I did want to be honest and show these to you guys. If it were me, I do think that you could have one of each of these shades in here. You could have one of these like bronzy / orangey ones, one of these two. I have a feeling though, if you are someone who likes to use some of these shadows as toppers, you're going to get a very different look from these two. So to me, I'm not mad that both of these are in this palette. And honestly, just from my first time swatching this palette, right away, I was like, oh, I'm so glad I got this palette, which to me that like means a lot because I have a lot of eyeshadows, so to really be thinking like, oh yeah, this was a good buy for me, I'm really excited. And one of the things that made me pretty excited about this is this shade right here, this one. It is kind of like that duochromy shifty shade. And right away I was like, oh, is that gonna be like Red Chameleon / Scarab from Sydney Grace? But it's very different. So I want to go ahead and swatch it for you. So this is the Dragonfly shade. And this is one of the new shades. And that's the thing about these duochromes is sometimes you just can't tell until you get them on the skin. So if you guys can see, it's like a smoky lavender with shifts of fuchsia pink into blue and purple teal. Can I add any more colors into there? Anyway, I'm gonna grab the Sydney Grace Scarab shade and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so I just pulled out the Mel Thompson and Sydney Grace collab. This has the shade that they're calling Scarab in this palette, but it is a repeat for Sydney Grace and it's the Red Chameleon shade. So this, you know, it had a little bit of that shift, but as I get these next to each other, they are actually pretty different. So I'll put these together so you guys can see like some of the same vibes, but still very different. I mean, first of all, I would say that this is gonna be a super fun topper shade over teals, over purples. It's gonna be a lot of fun. This one has almost more of a burgundy and almost like purpley brown undertone. The other ones that I wanted to pull out are the Makeup Geek Insomnia, and also I have MAC's Blue Brown Pigment. Now, I'm just like gonna put this on dry, so hopefully I, A, don't make a mess, and B, it can be like a true swatch here. All right, so hopefully you guys can see here, that last one's a little skinny, but I think you get the idea. So here's Dragonfly. This is Scarab / Red Chameleon from Sydney Grace. And then you have the Makeup Geek Insomnia shadow, which is a pressed pigment, and then also they brought it out in the pan, but this is the pan version. And then we have MAC Blue Brown Pigment. So in case you have any of those, you can see it does definitely have a different shift and a different undertone. So they could be cousins, but I would never really mistake them as sisters. Now, in all honesty, all three of these could definitely be sisters, but this is a cousin. Make sense? Okay, because I can kind of see like how long I've been yammering on, I think I'm just gonna do one look with this palette just so that you guys can kind of get an idea. But I was talking before about how I did a look this morning and I just want to kind of go over that with you. So what I did this morning was went through and used this really pretty gold. This is the one that has that bit of a shift to it. I used that on the inner I would say like third, but really brought it into the inner corner, and then went in with the beautiful like olivey green. You guys, I love an olive green. I love any type of green look in the fall, but that olive, like kind of like gritty look is totally my jam. Now, because there are only 3 mattes in this palette, I actually didn't use any of the mattes in this palette, and in all honesty, I'm not mad about that. I have so many mattes in my collection, and I find that I use a lot of shimmers like more often, or I use more shimmer, so I really didn't care all that much. So what I did to just complement this palette was pulled out my Wayne Goss Imperial Topaz, and all I did was mixed these two, buffed that into my crease, and then threw a little bit of the warmer shade underneath my lower lash line. And it was like quick, easy, done, but I was able to play with these beautiful like shimmery lid shades. So again, for me, I would actually rather have a palette that is like mostly shimmers than have a palette that like doesn't have enough shimmers for me to play with, if that makes sense. But that being said, because I haven't really used the mattes in this palette, that's what I'm going to be focusing on, and then using some of the shimmer shades as more of an accent. So since we have been talking about this dragonfly shade, I think I am going to use that as a topper. So that's, I think, where we're going to be going with this look. And all right, so let's just stop right here and talk about these mattes. Now, I could easily like buff something under the lower lash line and clean up my little bit of a mess here and be done and have this like really vampy, sexy fall plum eye, right? There is something special about these shimmers, but there's also magic in the mattes. Okay, this looks beautiful. Like, what do you guys think? I am in love. Like, honestly, I think that this looks super beautiful, and you guys can see that dragonfly shade is so, so pretty. I can't wait to wear this look when it's not tipping 9 o'clock at night and I'm just going downstairs. Jeremy will appreciate it. But I have to say, and I kind of expected this. I was trying to avoid it, but this morning when I did my look, I had glitter fallout everywhere, and I sort of anticipated that. I definitely have way more on this side where I first started trying to use that dragonfly shade dry, and that's one thing for me. I always would like to try a shade dry before I go in with it wet, and in all honesty, it very well could be because I was putting it over something that already had powder laid down, because then you don't have like a tacky base at all to stick to. That there was like nothing. Like there was like a couple flecks of glitter, but the rest of it was mostly kicking down onto my face, as you can probably see right here. So that's kind of to be expected, but once I wet my brush with Fix Plus, it was fine, and then we got like some bang and payout. So that's very, very lovely. I just wanted to do something soft under the eye. I do kind of wish there was a really light non-gold shade, because there are so many like cool tones in here. I wish that there was something that I could use as an inner corner highlight, but have no fear, because I am testing out 2 of the new Wayne Goss blush and highlighter palettes right after this, so I will probably just use something from there to highlight my inner corner. So I am super happy. Like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and just clean up under my eyes with a little bit of concealer since I have this situation, and put on some mascara. I had thought about doing lashes, but it's honestly just getting too late and I'm feeling lazy. So mascara it is. I'll be right back. All right, lovelies, here we have the final look. I have to say I am so very pleased with the way this turned out. I also have to say I apologize if I scared you with my crazy red eyeballs. When it gets later in the day, my eyes get really irritated and so they get pretty red. They actually are always a little bit red, but they're very red at night, so I forgot to put in my eye drops. I noticed when I was putting on my mascara that my eyes matched the color of my transition shade, and that's not cute. So I apologize for that, but you know, so it is. So the most important thing was that you got to see the palette in action and hopefully got to hear my thoughts. Speaking of thoughts, I'm gonna zoom you guys out so we can go through my final thoughts. So you probably know what I'm gonna say just from the vibe of this whole video, but I am very glad to have this in my hands. I'm a little scared at how much I'm starting to like Pat McGrath shadows, but I guess that's just sort of the way it goes. I have truly enjoyed the shades that I've worked with in here, and from swatching with you guys, I'm very excited to play with this some more. I will probably do some looks and post some pictures on Instagram, so if you'd like to see further info, don't forget to check me out on Instagram. It is Keep Beauty Real. That is my account over there. So I would love to see you there. Please come follow if you haven't already become part of my Insta fam. So who is this palette for? It's going to be for someone who is just a lover of Pat McGrath shades. It's going to be for someone who obviously collects all the palettes. That's a pretty obvious one. But I think it's also great for people who either missed out on the Star Wars collection or you're newer to the Pat McGrath world. I mean, this is a great way to get some of the beautiful formulas, be able to try out this brand and have a little bit more variety than some of the smaller palettes. Yes, you have slightly less fancy packaging. I mean, this is a cardboard palette. I mean, you still have a really nice size mirror though, so that's really nice. Now, while this isn't maybe as like high-end as some of her packaging, I certainly I don't feel like any corners were like cut here. It's still very, very beautiful. The packaging is lovely. I think the colors are fun. It's going to be a lot of fun to play with this one. So if you have these Star Wars palettes, or you're honestly someone who doesn't really enjoy a bigger size palette, or you prefer to just have bigger pans, those would be the people that I think should probably skip out on this one. Now, I know that Pat is also launching I believe two or three of the little quads as well. I'll go ahead and post a picture up here of like the entire holiday collection so you guys can see. So, you know, if you're someone that likes less colors in your life, like you like to get something out and just have a one and done look, something that you don't have to like sit there and think about and be intimidated by like 18 different shades, those might be for you. You know, for me though, I'm very happy to have this one. I was thinking about picking up at least one of those quads, and honestly at this point I think I'm gonna pass on that. I'm very happy with this. Who knows, I might change my mind, so don't hold me to that, but I really think I'm very happy with this. I'm also happy that you guys took the time to join me today. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. If you haven't already subscribed, I would love to see you stay here on my channel. Well, not stay here forever, but go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss out on those future videos. Let me know down below, did you get this? Are you thinking of getting it? Are you maybe gonna get it now? Let me know. Thanks again, you guys. I will see you really soon.